What's the best thing ever happened to you? I was days away from being evicted and I got a huge tip while I was waiting tables at Buffalo Wild Wings. I talked to this guy, maybe 35 yo, about Harry Potter for only like 15 minutes because he was wearing an HP shirt. Nothing too crazy stuck out about the conversation, except that you could tell he was a little different and he was there with his parents and enthusiastic about HP. It was a slow night and I enjoyed that someone wanted to just talk and be friendly. They paid their check and left. I went to bus the table and found they left me a $300 tip on a $50 check and said thanks for the conversation. I started bawling cause I was able to pay my rent and not get kicked out and was blown away that someone would do something like that. I've since done okay financially and hope to someday return the gesture to someone else. These people will never know the impact they had on my life. They will remember that day for the rest of their lives too. Sometimes the world is thoughtless or even downright cruel to people who are a little different. A really bad date. So bad that the girl didn't know it was a date. Or she did. But regardless, she was just using it to make my friend jealous. She made that clear at the end of the date. I came home pissed off. This was like 10 dates in a row with different girls that I just wasn't clicking with. I had been attempting Match.com for like 3 months and it led to a bunch of first dates but no second dates. I was sick of coy chatting back and forth for a week. Always being the one to reach out. Always offering to take the girl out to dinner and then calling the next day only to be ghosted. So I cancelled it. I was 4 years out of college and having trouble meeting people. So I finally decided to go out with this girl that my buddy had been saying I should take out. And yet towards the end she just started asking how she could impress him and stuff. So I go back to my apartment pissed off. She wasn't even good at tennis like she had claimed. It was a tennis date. And I could have at least hoped for someone who could be a good match there. But no. I stormed back into my apartment and flopped down on my couch. Open up my email and I have an advertisement from Match. A girl has sent you a message on Match. She's 24. And you both have racket sports in common. I needed something to fix my mood. So I decided on a new strategy. I would buy 1 more month of Match. And then be done. I re-upped my subscription. And sent this girl a message. She was pretty hot so I didn't have high hopes. It was something along the lines of, hey, I'm having a shooty night and kind of overmatch. I'm going to go to this bar right now. If you'd like to meet the old-fashioned way, I'll be there. She said sure and I headed out the door. When she walked in, she looked like her photo. That was uncommon. We played pool. Turned out she wasn't into tennis so she had no idea why Match said that. The next day I was feeling better. I was thinking maybe I should wait 3 days before I call and ask for a second date. That's the rule, right? That's when my cell phone rang. It's 12 years later. We have 2 kids and 2 dogs. All because I was just so pissed off about a bad date. Wild ride there. Thanks for sharing. Meeting my current wife. We're both in our early 70s. Starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. PTSD. Depression. Anxiety. Lack of self-confidence. Weird one. But, having my heart broken, I was absolutely infatuated with her and revolved my entire life around her. After it was over, it shattered me down to the very core of me, and I had to build myself back up again, learning to love myself, and create a better, more well-rounded human being that could emote in a mature and responsible way. It was a crushing, agonizing pain when it happened, and it was the best thing that has ever happened to me. Feel you bro. Beating cancer. Congrats. This is tame but it made me cry at the time. My cat suddenly got an infection and needed care ASAP. I'm a student and don't make much money, and didn't have enough for the vet bills. I posted something asking people for small donations or exposure if at all possible, as I was desperate and didn't know what else to do and my cat means the world to me. Some incredible, kind stranger who I will never forget donated $200 and told me that whatever was left over, to spend it on myself and my cat for a treat. I asked what I could ever do to repay him, and he said just pay it forward. I think about this constantly, and I will pay it forward 5 times over before I feel that it's even near equal to the kindness this stranger showed me and my cat. Edit forgot about cat tax. Got reminded so enjoy moody. Cat photo tax please. Sobriety. It'd probably be dead by now. Glad you're still here friend. Getting divorced. 2 hearts. and the neighborhood thanks you. The best thing that ever happened to me was the death of my ex. We met in high school and were together 9 years. He cheated on me multiple times with multiple women including my best friend. He was manipulative and emotionally abusive. He was an incredibly intelligent and captivating person, but he had a lot of demons, including mental health issues and several addictions. I finally broke up with him when I moved away for grad school, but he wouldn't accept it and he started stalking and threatening me. I blocked him on everything and changed my phone number, but he inevitably found new ways to contact me and make my life miserable. When I found out he died of a drug overdose, I started sobbing uncontrollably. It was partially guilt that I hadn't been able to help him, but also gratitude and relief that I would never have to see him or deal with his abuse again. His death freed me from near constant fear and dread. It's been 6 years and I'm now happily married to a wonderful man and have 2 beautiful children and a fulfilling career. My parents had unprotected sex. I don't know where it'd be if that didn't happen. Married to my best friend. Changing careers. Being poor sucks ass. Being able to buy things and take care of myself is a wonderful feeling. My mom dying when I was 15. She wasn't a bad person, but she wasn't good. I know she cared about us. She just had a manipulative side to her. She would weaponize us against our dad and it left scars. I was her biggest weapon because my dad isn't my biological father, but he has raised me since birth. He is a godson. She would threaten to tell him I wasn't his biological kid or threaten to take away his ability to see me. She had a tendency to be violent and manipulative. She was also bad with money management and I grew up on the poor side. She got cancer when she was 34 and died at 36. My sister and I got to move in with my dad. It was rough at first, but I went from poor to middle class. I wasn't constantly fighting with my mom anymore. I didn't have to put up with her establishing her dominance by pulling my hair because I wouldn't fight back. I was finally free. I still bear the scars of my childhood and yet, part of me wishes she was alive and for our relationship to have been mended, but we would have destroyed each other. I know it. Without her toxic influence, I managed to work on myself and my anger problems. That life is a different life. I'm at a stage now where I've more or less cut my mum out of my life. Having my daughter, nothing beats that. That lovely mate. A few years back, a friend of mine was going out of state to go work at a golf tournament selling beer. One of their foursome backed out last second and needed someone to take the spot at the Airbnb they rented. I was in a good spot to be able to take 2 weeks off from my minutes wage warehouse job and was feeling adventurous and said yes. Took a bus down there with one of my buddies who was staying with us, and we arrived and got picked up by my buddy who got me to come, and the girl who set it all up. We worked 2 weeks, and it was a blast. We worked hard, played harder, and made bank. It really was a super fun trip, but the best part was that girl that picked us up. We get married next summer. My beautiful fluffy puppy dog that has been by my side and my constant companion for 14 years. Not sure how much longer he's got, but he is without doubt the best thing ever in my whole life. I needed to pay off my car and I didn't have the money because of miscommunication with my job. Shortly after, my college gave me a refund and I was able to make the last payment. A family member became a flight attendant and I became their travel companion. Traveling would be completely out of my budget, but I've gotten to fly first class to a lot of countries for a couple $100 round trip. I had a good run before COVID. I found a dead girl on the side of the road and was able to reunite her with her family. Reading that as you murdered the rest of the family, getting dumped by the bad one and getting married to the good one. My biological mother died and left me a lot of money. Ate burger. Meeting my girlfriend of almost 10 years. She brings me an indescribable amount of happiness that I hope lasts forever. Red heart. I'm proposing to her in 2 weeks and I'm very excited and nervous. I know she will say yes, but normally I have her by my side when doing something scary, nerve-wracking, but I gotta do this one on my own. Luckily, it'll be the last thing I ever need to do without her. Good luck, mate. I had an older woman seduce me in my late teens. She was eating at a restaurant where I worked and kept asking me to come over to help with a seat. The 3rd or 4th time she asked me over, I finally realized she had been holding out her card with a handwritten message on the back. I was so clueless and didn't notice it the first few times. Let me spoil you, Mr. Handsome. What time does your shift end? I wrote 1 AM and she left. She was staying at a downtown hotel, and well, I realized this whole mysterious woman dates thing was different when a black car pulled up in front of the restaurant after closing. Driver got out, opened the car and drove me downtown to a very swanky hotel. The kind that you feel the lobby has a dress code. She TXT'd me her room and info. I read the message and was waiting outside her hotel room when her and this hot Latina looking woman opened the door to find wearing a dirty shirt and smelling of food. 2 days later I stepped in the elevator and was tired, sore, and had 2 women frick my brains out in a room smelling of sex and weed. She gave me a few $1,000s and I never saw her again. It blew my mind and I learned so much about what wealthy people can do. How giving they can be, and that I was well endowed, thus able to learn how to control my body and hold off to delay pleasure. Women love sex and are into stuff that most guys are bashful about. Lesson learned. Sex is great and most people with means are private. Sign me up lol. 2005-ish. We had just gotten broadband again after moving. Long story. Went to pick up a new PC game to celebrate. It was between Call of Duty 2 or Battlefield 2142. I picked COD 2 since I dug World War II history. Became interested in making my own maps with the free level editor. Did it through college as a fun hobby and was poached by ATVI to move to CA to work on the game as a designer. Did it for the better part of a decade before leaving. I met my beautiful wife at the office and now we have 2 kids. Careers making games. And couldn't be happier. I can still remember standing there in a KB Toys of all places to buy games, thinking yeah I still kind of like World War II games. I'll go with this one. Funny how things work out. My parents divorce. If they never split, my dad would still be an alcoholic. My mom would be an unhappy housewife. And I would live in a trailer park and likely would have gotten into drugs. Instead, my father has been sober for years now. My mom is traveling constantly and loving it. And am a functioning alcoholic. That I grew up in a good family and that I got to know my girlfriend. Other than my wife and kid, I was preparing to give my 2 weeks notice at my call center job as I had gotten a much better job in my actual field. Probably about 3 or 4 days before I planned to give my notice, they laid me off and gave me 1 month's pay. It was amazing. Started at zero. Grew up with not much. Just grateful for every opportunity I can take. I try my best and now I'm hoping to move out and live on my own or with a friend one day to make videos on YouTube. TBH, it's probably watching One Piece. I am serious. I would go through all the trouble in my life just to see it again for the first time. Hunter x Hunter as well. Accidentally knocked up this hostess I worked with. I had been trying and failing to get sober for nearly 8 years. Had 2 years clean in the middle there but wasn't happy, which kept leading me back to alcohol. When she found out she was pregnant, I didn't for a second think she'd want me in their lives. But she's an amazingly beautiful person. She told me what she expected of me and believed in me. Everyone else had given up on me long ago. The combination of loving support and the desire to stay sober for unborn baby was the motivation I needed to finally kick it. I'll have 10 years sober in January. We now have 2 kids. And our 8-year anniversary in next week. Ending my engagement during the pandemic. To be fair, I decided to call it off the week before the pandemic started. He owns restaurants and has a kid, so we stayed together in case the restaurants failed. They didn't. So a month or so later I left. For the first time at 28 I lived alone. I also went on first dates. All my exes were previous friends, so I never went on real dates before. A year later, I'm in the healthiest, most fun and positive relationship I've ever had. We just moved in together and are creating what I always pictured to be my ideal life and relationship together. If I hadn't taken that leap to leave everything that was comfortable, in the middle of a pandemic nonetheless, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I was pretty anxious, insecure and non-social before I met my boyfriend, and he helped me break through all of that. It's crazy how your mental health and life can change when you have a great support system. My mom died last year. Best day ever. She was a malignant narcissist who spent her life hurting other people. I know she was a sick person, but there's no excuse for abject cruelty, abandonment, and selfishness. Having my life saved by a complete stranger. I was diagnosed with leukemia a few years ago, day before the birthday. Yay. Eventually found that it was extremely aggressive. After 5 rounds of chemo didn't work out too well. Only hope was a bone marrow transplant. A perfect match was found. Only thing I knew was that it was a female. This wonderful person gave up their time and their marrow for someone they knew nothing about. She could have backed out at any time, but didn't. Thankfully, she didn't. And also thankfully, the transplant worked out well. I am 4 years post and doing well. After a year, if both donor and recipient agree, contact information can be shared. We both agreed and became fast friends. We text daily, call video chat on holidays, and get each other presents on Christmas and birthdays. She has become one of my closest friends, and I am incredibly thankful, like I can't even put in words. Despite being 3,000 miles apart, we hope to meet in person next year.